You ever see a company that's just everywhere? Big ads, flashy products, and you can't help but wonder, are they actually making any money? It's a huge question, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and learn how to check the real vital signs of a business.
I mean, it seems like it should be obvious, but shiny headquarters and a popular brand don't always mean a company's in good shape financially. To get the real story, you've got to know where to look, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
You know, the best way to wrap your head around this is to think of it like a full medical checkup. A doctor doesn't just look at you and say, "Yep, you seem fine." No, they run tests, they check your vitals, they look at the charts. We're about to do the same thing, but for a company.
And in our case, these medical charts are called financial statements. Now, these aren't some glossy marketing pamphlets. These are the official, regulated documents that spell out in black and white the financial reality of a company. This is where the real story lives. All right, first up in our checkup is a document called the balance sheet. The easiest way to think about this is like it's a financial X-ray of the company. It's a still image, a single revealing snapshot in time. And that's the key thing to remember here. The balance sheet doesn't care about what happened last year or what might happen next month. It is laser focused on right now. It's designed to answer one question. On this exact day, what is the company's financial position? And it does that by looking at three main things: assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Okay, I know that sounds a little jargony, but I promise you it boils down to two really simple ideas that have to be in perfect balance. So, on one side of the X-ray, you've got assets. This is all the stuff the company owns. We're talking cash in the bank, machinery, inventory sitting in a warehouse. Then, on the other side, you have the claims against all that stuff. This is broken into liabilities, what the company actually owes to others, like a bank loan, and equity, which is the value left over for the owners and investors. Think of it as their slice of the pie. And here's why it has its name. It's a balance sheet. Because those two sides, what it owns and the claims against what it owns, must always equal each other. It's like a fundamental law of physics for accounting. If they don't balance, something is very, very wrong.
Okay, let's move on to the next part of our exam. If the balance sheet was a static X-ray, then our next document, the profit and loss account, is more like a dynamic stress test.
Right, so this isn't a snapshot anymore. The P&L, as it's usually called, is like we're putting the company on a treadmill for a while, say a quarter or a whole year, and we're measuring its performance. Did it have the endurance to run a marathon, or was it out of breath almost immediately?
So officially, the P&L account, which you'll also hear called an income statement, is a story that unfolds over time. It adds up all the money that came in during that period, and then subtracts all the money that went out. It's a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and a very famous ending. And the story flows just like this. You start at the very top with revenue. That's every single dollar the company brought in from selling its stuff. Then you start subtracting all the expenses, things like salaries, rent, marketing, you name it. And what you're left with at the very end is probably the most talked about number in business, the bottom line, net profit.
Now, a company might shout from the rooftops about something like this: "We made $10 million in revenue." And yeah, that sounds amazing, right? That's the top line, and it's definitely a big deal, but it's not the whole story.
Because after you subtract all the costs of actually running the business, the bottom line could look something like this. And this is exactly why the P&L is so important. Now look, this isn't automatically a disaster. Maybe it's a startup spending a ton on growth, or a tech company investing heavily in R&D. The P&L doesn't just give you an answer, it makes you ask the right questions, like where did all the money go?
Okay, so we've got our X-ray, that's the balance sheet, and we've got our treadmill test, the P&L. Now it's time to put it all together for the full diagnosis.
So let's just recap really quickly. The balance sheet is our X-ray. It tells us about the company's financial foundation at one single moment in time. The P&L account is our treadmill test. It shows us how profitable the company was over a period of time. And here's the thing, you absolutely need both. One without the other just doesn't give you the full picture. For example, a company could look super profitable on its P&L, but its balance sheet might show it's drowning in debt. You've got to look at them together. And just so you know, the complete health report also includes a cash flow statement, which tracks where actual cash is going. But honestly, if you can get a handle on these first two, you're well on your way.
So, these are the questions you should be asking. The balance sheet, is the foundation stable? The P&L, is the engine running profitably? And together, does this whole thing look like a healthy, sustainable operation for the long haul?
And really, that's the whole point of this. By understanding what these two key documents do, you've leveled up. You're no longer just looking at the outside of a company. You now have the tools to open up the medical charts and make your own informed diagnosis.
So I'll leave you with this. Public companies have to make these financial statements available to everyone. So, now that you know how to read the charts, whose health are you going to check first? A competitor? A company you're thinking of investing in? Maybe even the company you work for? The power, my friends, is now in your hands.